Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the XR Update Podcast. It is amazing to see you. It's Tuesday, November 26th. My name is Alex VR. I am the perpetual host of this here podcast, but a semi-perpetual host has joined me once again from Virtual Strangers, PSVR Without Parole, and of course, Impact Reality. It's our very own Wes Dillon. What's up, Wes? What's up?
What is up, Alex? Glad to be back here, man. That intro gets me pumped every time.
It's kind of exciting.
It is, and I need that, right? We need that jolt. We take our little wins throughout the day to give us energy to truck on, and that intro is a 10 out of 10 every time.
Indeed, it is, my good sir. And you're a 10 out of 10 every time. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty well, man. It's the day. It's the day. We've been working toward this day for so long. It's almost surreal. Does it feel almost surreal to you that it's now?
Brother, there are layers of this that feel surreal to me. Like the fact that, it's our company that is putting Trombone Champ out, that the day has finally come, that it's kind of just the beginning because there's so much more coming. We all work in video games, we do podcasts and stuff. I have the highest scores on the leaderboard ever. Like so many things that are just like, I have to pinch myself all the time,
I think your reign may be coming to an end, man. The pool is growing on the daily, and today it's going to runneth over into the streets. So you better be putting your time in.
I'm going to be spending the whole day just like frantically like clicking on all of the songs to update the leaderboards and have them populate again to see if anybody's getting closer. It's going to be bad. I don't know, dude. Eventually, yes. I don't think I can hold on to any of my high scores like throughout time, like as the months go on and the years go on. Like there are people who are just going to run with this, you know what I mean? And not to say I haven't, but I've just never had global leaderboard skills. Like, let's just be real, like some people out there are incredible at games. It's kind of shocking. And I expect that to happen. But if I could keep day one, like if I leave 24 hours of Trombone Champ Unflattened being out and still at the top of each song, I'll that's fine. You can etch that on my gravestone for me. Like had global leaderboard positions #1 on the first day of Trombone Champ Unflattened. That would be fine. After that, the king has to pass the crown on at some point, right?
You're gonna have to put in an automation request to get a leaderboard, a ticking leaderboard that goes through the songs outside of the headset, so that you can.
That would be so sick. That would be so sick. Well, as you guys can tell, we here at Impact Reality, Flat2VR Studios, and XR Update are pretty excited about Trombone Champ coming out, and we're going to be diving into an interview here very soon with the Trombone Champ developer team. But before we do that, I just want to quickly just touch on a couple of the other things that are happening here in the VR space, if that's okay with you, Wes.
Yes, please. It's a busy space these days, so we should talk about that.
It is a busy space. There's a lot happening, and I think it's important that we touch on some of that stuff. Like for example, this little news blurb that has been lifted from XR Update on X. Some people call it Twitter. Not me. I live in 2024. This thing's X, all right? And I'm trying to remember that. I call it Twitter all the time. But it is X, and we have an X account for XR Update, which maybe you're even watching this live on X right now, which is pretty cool. We've been live streaming there as well as YouTube and LinkedIn and to some Facebook groups. But we take these little news blurbs from the X account. So if you're not already following XR Update on Twitter, then I highly recommend you do so. Because we are constantly updating, aka Wes is constantly updating everybody with all these awesome little news bits. And I feel like you almost have to be living under a rock to miss this one. PlayStation VR 2 is now available for $350, including the Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle, which is a pretty significant discount from the $250 from its usual $600 price. The offer is valid until January 3rd, which is amazing, not just Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and it is accessible through all official retailers. So like this is like kind of for all intents and purposes a price drop.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, man. Like they did a similar price drop for a very short amount of time a month or two ago, and these things went like hotcakes. Like it cleared some stock, and by the end of the sale, you couldn't hardly find these in like on Amazon and a few other of the major retailers, which is an awesome thing. Because if you have a PlayStation, here's your opportunity to buy into what is essentially the best library in terms of like big budget AAA titles. If you want to play AAA games in VR, there's one place to go do that, and it's on PlayStation VR 2. But let's say you don't have a PlayStation 5, but you're a PC gamer and you're tired of your old, blurry headset from 6 years ago, and you want an upgrade, but you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for it. This, in my opinion, in terms of affordable PCVR hardware, is the go-to. It's the best. As long as you're okay with having that cable on there, this is my go-to daily driver for PCVR. So it's an excellent headset for that. And I've just been blown away with how good the support for it has been since they dropped the PC adapter, I think 3 months ago now. It was great on day one. So those of you who like have the PC and you've been looking at all of these people playing these mods with the Unreal Engine VR injector, and you want to buy into that and play some legit AAA flat games in VR, here's your chance to buy in for just $3, and you get that awesome game key to go with it.
To be honest, I'm a little surprised to hear this. I'm surprised to hear that the PlayStation VR 2 is your daily driver for PC VR. That is very interesting to me. And the fact that you would recommend this still over a Quest if somebody was getting into VR and wanted to access PC VR titles.
Well, now the Quest obviously has its benefits, right? It has its obviously the thing I already mentioned, that you can use it to tether to your PC wirelessly. Plus, I mean, not to mention the fact that it has the standalone library and you don't need another device to play with it. And if that's something that you're looking to do, like obviously in terms of like the best all around headset, that's it. I'm talking about if you're just getting a headset to play PC VR on, you're getting an OLED panel here. You're getting the extra field of view, and the contrast. It's a noticeable difference. Whenever I'm play something on my Quest 3, the first thing I notice every time I put it on is just how much more dim and dull the screens are in that. That's because I'm used to playing on that OLED panel that's in that PSVR 2.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't expect it to become my go-to, because before my go-to was HP Reverb G2, which is another super high-res headset that has about the same resolution as the PlayStation headset has on it. But it took that headset years to get the proper controller support to be a viable headset for someone to use every day. PlayStation VR 2's PC support was better on day one than HP Reverb's was after all of these years of support, which blew me away. I did not expect that. I expected that we would be waiting for some time for the community to come up with all of these controller bindings, so that we could play the games. And that just wasn't the case. It just worked immediately. So yeah, I think it's a great PC VR headset. And again, I didn't expect it to be my go-to, but it very much is.
Well, that's really cool, actually. I'm happy to hear that. I love my PlayStation VR 2 as well. It kind of has become a Gran Turismo 7 simulation machine for me. That's like the main reason why I busted out. And it's always like when somebody comes over, like somebody comes over and they like see my wheel and pedal sitting in the corner. I'm like, yep, we're doing this right now. But that's great. So yeah, shout out PlayStation, shout out Sony, dropping the price on the PlayStation VR 2. If you've been waiting to pick one up, I think this is probably a pretty good time, especially with so many amazing games hitting the platform, including Trombone Champ Unflattened today. Oh my gosh, so exciting. Okay, moving on. We have another quick news update to share before we get into the interview portion of today's episode, and that is that Microsoft has just announced that starting in December, MetaQuest 3 and Quest 3S users will have the ability to access their local Windows PC or Windows 365 Cloud PC directly from their headsets. So this is native Microsoft integration. This integration claims to provide a seamless, high-quality, multi-monitor workstation to experience in VR. So is this like kind of like like a what is it? Like a virtual desktop kind of situation here that Microsoft is just allowing Quest 3 users to access?
Kind of, kind of. And to be honest, this particular story is kind of a boring story for eggheads that like to work in VR already, even though the tech is not quite perfect yet. What excites me about this story is kind of the underlying meaning of it. This is another step in the right direction for the technology. I mean, we're very soon we're going to be at the point, like this mentions, that if you have your Windows PC turned on and you have your Quest 3 turned on, they're going to immediately recognize each other and sync up without you having to do anything. Just seamless integration if what they're saying can be believed.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. That again, that's another step in the future that we're all kind of trying to build toward. Furthermore, what really excited me about it was the fact that you don't even really need a PC to take advantage of this. The kind of fine print that everyone seems to be glossing over is that this also works with the Microsoft 365 subscription service to connect to a cloud PC. And that is a technology that I'm very excited about. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this Microsoft 365 PC is going to let you play Steam VR on day one. Like, I don't think that that's going to happen yet. But what I think this is doing is I think it's paving the way for future cloud PC based services, which will allow you to play PC VR games without a PC on your standalone hardware for a small monthly fee. And I can tell you, Alex, I know that the technology is already there because I've tried some beta services years ago that were functional and worked at that point. Like I played Half-Life Alyx on my Quest 2 in the early days of Quest 2, and it worked well. So here we are years later. This is becoming an officially supported feature on a Meta headsets, and we know that in the background they're working on what they call Avalanche, which is their cloud-based gaming service. So all the people out there that are moaning and complaining about the quality of standalone VR, even though it is getting much better, this is going to be the thing that really levels the playing field. It's going to be cloud-based gaming, the PC in the sky, so to speak. 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're not going to be relying so much on the processors inside these headsets, and I think that's very exciting.
Absolutely. And for me, the biggest area of opportunity there is like the displays and the form factors of the head mounted devices that we're wearing getting dramatically better. Because if you can offload the compute power, then you can take so much stuff out of that thing and make it specific for being the best damn display ever, you know? So I love the sound of a wireless wireless PC VR headset that is lightweight and looks great and works really, really well. And I guess this is a step in the right direction to achieving that future.
Yeah, this is real. This is happening next month. That's mind blowing if you think about it.
It is mind blowing, dude. I mean, VR is mind blowing, bro. The future is mind blowing. Like the fact that we're even doing this right now is insane. Like broadcasting live with video, like from our homes, you know, like used to have like television studios to pull this kind of shit off. And now here we are like, you know, doing it. Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. You know, like if you're out there being like, hey, maybe I should start a podcast, you can. You can.
People like you and I, and obviously so many others that are much more responsible for it, are actually making the television model, the newspaper print model. All of that's going to be a thing of the past very soon, and it's on its last legs already. And it's because of the technology enabling people to connect in so many ways. So you're right; it's pretty amazing.
It's beautiful. The technology is allowing us to connect in so many ways, and it's also allowing us to toot to our heart's content in virtual to virtual audiences, playing the hits, all the hits from throughout all of time. And I'm super, super, super excited. You're excited. All of us are here at XR Update Impact Reality Flat2VR Studios for Trombone Champ Unflattened. This thing has been a labor of love. It has been so awesome to be behind the scenes to help pull this thing off. And I am really, really excited to introduce all of you out there who are listening to the development team who has helped make this dream a reality. And before we do that, I think maybe we should take a quick look at this. That was the amazing brand new launch trailer for Trombone Champ Unflattened, and I am so excited to introduce many of the team from Trombone Champ Unflattened. We have Raicuparta, what? How do you say this thing, dude?
Nobody knows. It's right. Okay.
Rye works. Well, I gave you an opportunity to clear it all up, and you passed on it. So there you go.
I like to keep the mystery.
We've got Rye, who is the original modder of the Trombone Champ. Got it kind of working in VR for the very first time with the mod back in the day. We've got Emily from the Flat2VR team. What's your title over there on this project there, Emily?
I'm creative lead on Trombone Champ.
Creative lead. Beautiful. Well, I'm glad we have you. We've got, of course, Jasmine Uniza. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. Good job.
Yeah, Jasmine Uniza. She's our CEO at Impact Reality Flat2VR Studios. And, of course, Elliott, Tate, the man, the myth, the legend, OG Beat Saber modder, starter of the Flat2VR community, and, of course, Flat2VR Studios. Dude, thank you guys all so much for being here. I'm so excited to dive into a discussion around what is arguably, maybe not even arguably, my favorite VR game of this year. I love Trombone Champ so much. You guys have done such an amazing job, and I'm really stoked to dive into some of it.
Alex, maybe we can ask you, what do you love about it so much? Because that was, I think, the most unexpected thing was finding out that you were a #1 fan.
And it's kind of funny because, I don't know, I really feel like it's unbiased. I really truly feel like my love for this game has nothing to do with the fact that I'm friends with so many people who have really made it possible. But I love rhythm games. I've always been a huge fan of Beat Saber. I think everybody knows that. And this is a rhythm game that requires a lot of skill, believe it or not, to be good at it. And you can play it from a seated position. You can relax and enjoy it. There's this element of quirkiness and humor and not taking itself too seriously that I appreciate. It makes it a lot more approachable in a lot of ways. Actually, not even low key, high key. I love the music. I love classical music. I love being able to participate in all of these songs. I love tying the name of the song to the melody. You know all of these songs, but you don't know the name of it. You don't know who the composer was, and Trombone Champ actually gives you a window into that. So I appreciate that too. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, it's more than a rhythm game. That's the thing. I think calling it a rhythm game is actually pretty reductive when you play it and you realize that there's a lot more going on here. And I don't think there's a better endorsement for it than the fact that you all have convinced Alex to put the virtual gun down and pick up the virtual horn here. So yeah, kudos on a excellent debut title from the studio.
Did you just come up with that? Put the virtual gun down and pick up the virtual horn.
I gotta use that.
Lay down the virtual gauntlet.
Get it on a shirt.
Yeah.
Dude, should we just add more people to this party right now, or what? Is this David flying in? Hi.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Welcome.
David, tell us, why did I just add you to this call? Who are you?
I am a developer on Trombone Champ Unflattened.
Boom.
pretty much it.
A developer on a Trombone Champ Unflattened. Well, I was just gushing about how it's like my favorite game of this year. So great job.
It's a very understated introduction. He's kind of a legend in the Beat Saber modding community. He made some of the most important mods, and then has been like a genius, like at getting stuff done, like impossible things. Then you wake up the next day and David's like done.
Nice.
That's what I really love. That's what I really love about this studio. You know, it's more than a tagline when we talk about how the studio has grown from the Flat2VR community. That literally the team at the studio are the same people that have been, you know, leaders in this community and this movement for years now. So this just seems like more of a natural evolution of what's been happening in the VR space in recent years than it is just the founding of another VR studio.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, Rai, like I can only imagine what all of this has been like for you, you know, being a passionate modder, somebody who just kind of loved Trombone Champ. I mean, why don't you tell us, like, how did the original mod of this game come to be?
Basically, I just saw the game being super popular, like turned into a meme, and I thought I gotta act quickly. Like I have maybe a couple days before this game disappears from everyone's radar. So I made like the fastest, like quickest mod. I didn't expect that the game would like stay popular afterwards, which it still is. Like still is quite popular. But yeah, that was lucky. And yeah, I just made like the quickest like mod in like 2 hours, and immediately shared it with the creators with Holowall. And I saw that they saw it, like they like interacted with it. I think it was on Twitter. They interacted with the tweet, so I immediately like tagged Elliott in, and I was like, if you guys are interested, you know, and then yeah.
So how much? I'm sorry, Alex. How much of the game in its current form, you know, the official VR adaptation of Trombone Champ Unflattened, was a part of your original vision when you were, you know, doing the unofficial mod, so to speak, for this? I'm sure that, you know, some of these ideas must have been floating around in your head at that time, but you just didn't have like the resources or time or whatever to make it a reality. How much of this has been kind of iterated upon by the team in recent weeks, and how much of this was part of your original vision for what Trombone Champ in VR could be?
I would say the only thing that's in that first original vision that I had initially when I first started the mod would be that you're standing on a stage, you're holding a trombone. Everything else is pretty much like just done from scratch or like completely different than what I imagined. This is like we basically made a new game.
Yeah, I mean, Flat2VR, you know, like the kind of like the, I don't know, like the ethos or the, I don't know, like what's the word? I don't know, like the goal, I guess, of Flat2VR really is to VRify flat screen games, right? Like give them the VR treatment. Like what does it mean to VRify something? Jasmine.
Yeah, I just want to give a little context. So first it was just it was me, Rai, and Elliott working on this project originally. And we had all these ideas of what we wanted to do, and we got pretty far with it. But then when we brought in like Emily, David, and all these other rock stars on the team, this game just turned into something completely, like it took a life of its own. I feel like maybe Emily and David, if you all want to talk about some of the VRification that you've done.
Sure.
Don't all speak at once.
I don't know where to start. I mean, like Jasmine said, I came in a little bit later into production, so a lot of the bigger kind of direction decisions were made. But the things that I got to work on, which was really fun, was helping work very closely with David, who kind of made all of it come to life, and also with our UI UX designer, Sergey, in creating 3D immersive UI for all of the games, taking like a very flat 2D elements and turning it into 3D, very responsive UI. We made a whole campaign, which does not exist in the flat game, that players progress through a series of albums with specific challenges designed for each song that increase in difficulty. So just like a lot of depth in in creating this unflattened version that we added to the existing game.
And what I find interesting about that is like that's stuff that like technically didn't need VR, right? Like they could have added a campaign to the flat screen version. They could have added, achievements and stuff like that. But it's almost like, I mean, it's clear when you play the game that like so much love and passion went into this thing, and like you guys improved on the base game. Like you made the base game, like you did better than the base game and VRified it. Like the VRification, I think, comes on top of that.
Yeah, I think David should definitely talk about the spray paint and the trombone like spray paint, because that was all David.
Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of in the base game where you can, customize your trombone, but on the base game it's more like, you're picking through patterns and colors, while in the VR version you can fully paint it however you want. You have spray cans, so you can like, spray paint wherever you want. There's a little marker if you want to draw things on it. And yeah, it's just kind of taking like something the base game did and, using the strengths of VR with the, fine hand control to take it to the next level.
I feel like David's being so modest about this. The insanity of what he's done for this. I don't know, Elliott, maybe you can talk about it, because that's such a simple way of talking about it.
I mean, yeah, it's a full like art program too. Like you can draw, you can do shapes, you can change the colors. But that's just one small like piece I think that David put into the game. Even the cursor, I noticed a couple videos like Beardo talked about like, what in the world? Why is this so satisfying? Why is the main menu so satisfying? Even that like curved arch of the Raycaster, what was kind of the inspiration behind that? I hadn't really seen that in a VR game before, I don't think.
Yeah, I just really wanted the menus to kind of feel like really polished and 3D. Like it kind of bugs me how a lot of VR ports, you're just interacting with the flat UI on a plane. When you're in VR, you could have like a lot more going on, and the whole pointer thing was just kind of a like, how could I make this kind of simple interaction feel a lot better to do? And
Because it really does. It really does. Like as you're like moving your cursor through the menu, like the white laser or line that comes off of the edge of your cursor is like kind of sticky. It like it's almost like a magnetic end, and like as you go to move it, it adds this curve and then snaps off and sticks to something else. And there's an audio cue as you're hovering over everything with this nice little click sound. And there's just a level of polish. And it's actually kind of cool because we very recently had a company all hands meeting, at Impact Reality, which had everybody who works at Impact, everybody who works
5 minutes ago,
as in 5 minutes ago, very, very recently, but all of us here are underneath that Impact Reality umbrella. So we were all there at this company all hands meeting, and it was really, really cool. And one of the things that came up during that meeting was talking about the quality of the experience, and how so many virtual reality studios, when they put their first game out, they put out something that's a little rough around the edges, a little janky. You start to see some of these like flat UIs and these like, jagged edges all over everything, just like rough model over here and, messed up thing over there. But there like literally is none of that in Trombone Champ Unflattened. Like it is so polished, so just beautifully rounded around the edges and clean. And it just speaks, I think, to the passion and dedication of the team who has been working on this project. It's clear that you're all VR gamers and that you care so much about this being an amazing experience for everybody who picks it up.
That's what we really wanted to show. This is not just a mod. This is really reimagined to say like, what if this game was always built from the ground up? Like what would that start feeling like and looking like? And I think Trombone Champ is one of the best examples because the entire game is 2D, like everything from the notes to like we talked about the menus, but everything is not just 2D flat screen, but actually like 2D elements. So showing even if a game is that extreme, it can still be ported to VR. We were talking about like the VR, the mods origin story, I also had like seen a video and was blown away. Like, what? Like, you play with a mouse? Like, or like, you know, you start imagining, what if you actually played it like a real trombone? And then I talked to Ryan, and he's like, oh, actually, I already did that last night. I'm like, oh man, people, great minds think alike. No, just kidding. But just what that entails, and so that's only like the first step, where like the actual mechanics is fun. Like you take a first person shooter like RoboQuest that we're working on, and then it's fun to shoot, but then what's all the other bits that makes it when you open it up and say, this is really taking advantage of VR. And that was a fun thing to be able to do with this, and I think our other ports too.
One thing I think is so interesting about this is that like this literally is Trombone Champ. Like the code that makes Trombone Champ what it is running underneath all of what you see in Trombone Champ Unflattened. Like it is actually the same game.
It is.
With
It
lots
is
of
and
code.
it is and it isn't, right? Like the foundation that this is built upon is very much the same code, but this is a very different game. The original Trombone Champ, like Elliott was just talking about, it's like very like simple. Like it's just a person playing a trombone. There's an abstract background, and then there's the notes. Now there's a concert hall. There's an audience. There's the maestro, you know, the conductor or whatever. So how did you all take what was pretty much a fairly simple game, and what was the process that allowed you to kind of flesh it out into this like much more detailed and rich experience that people have when they play the game in VR?
One thing that, like, one of the first things that started thinking about when we started working on this is that there is a Switch version of the game that uses motion controls, and my idea was the VR version cannot be basically a Switch version where you're just looking at a virtual screen in VR, where like the only difference is that you can do that in VR with motion controls. Like it cannot be just that, you know. If you look at my mod, the VR mod that I made for the game, that was basically what it was. It was adding motion controls, but then everything else is you are literally looking at a screen where the actual gameplay is happening, where the notes are just going from left to right. And that was like the first step, is how do we like go from this to something that's actually interesting to play in VR and that actually uses VR to its fullest. And then from then on, it was just like iterating and like just trying a bunch of combinations of things until something felt good.
What led to the decision to move from one singular lane of notes to the two that kind of straddle each side of the screen and come at you? Did that come about due to like early play testing, or was that always the idea?
It was a lot of very heated conversations.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was pretty intense at that beginning phase. You get a bunch of very passionate VR people, VR players, and we all are pushing like one direction. We're like, no, we should go this way. I mean, the ideas that we had were insane. I mean, I think at one point too, David was like, we should do a circular one, like a circular lane, and that was insane. But yeah, it was just a lot of very heated conversations, trying out different things. We knew we were going to be on stage, and this was the direction that Holy Wow wanted to do as well. They wanted it to be on stage. You wanted you to be on stage, and what does that look like? And so between 1 and 2 lanes, it was like, of course we can have 1 lane, but this is VR, and actually what happened was we would like play, and you would have your neck turned this way and only looking at one side, and it hurt. So we were like, we need to balance this. Yeah, there's just a lot of conversations.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's just to like kind of like keep you from being like too static in one spot, and like, oh, like let's loosen this up a little bit, and like gives you the opportunity to like move your head. Like, is that literally what led to that decision?
Well, I'll talk a little bit more. Like, I think the Beat Saber is in the custom mapping world. There's light maps, which are pretty cool. Like, some people very talented people made all kinds of light shows. Sometimes they have blocks, sometimes they're just the whole song with crazy visuals that go along. And I always loved like how that can make you feel immersed way more for me. I love music, so like all those visuals really enhance that. So like what Jasmine was saying, when you're kind of reimagining a game that on the flat screen, you just keep your head in front of you the whole time. But in VR, you've got 360 kind of canvas with a huge field of view that you can look anywhere. And so to do just something in front of you would be to completely ignore kind of one of the greatest things about VR. So like motion controls is awesome, but from a visual standpoint, how do we make that feel alive? And then one thing, I saw a video of Trombone.
Who is typing right now? That is some loud clacking, yo.
I'm sorry. I warned my wife of something.
A band with like trombonists doing the kind of like swagger going back and forth. And so I'd be like, what if we kind of play with two sides? And so you're seeing things happening in this environment, which was kind of inspired by like, what if you were in this serious concert hall and then a circus just broke through and started creating havoc. And I actually had way more ambitious with monkeys swinging on vines and
Spoilers.
stuff like but we still have some crazy stuff with circus cannons and confetti and bubbles and just things sucking up in the ceiling and dropping other things down below, and it just really like makes the song feel alive. And all that was mapped with a really popular Jay Connor custom Beat Saber mapper, and did some really cool just timing of events in the song that really brings those to life. But yeah, the short end of it was just how to really utilize VR, which is our passion at Flat2VR. How do you really make full use of that system when you're imagining these games?
Yeah, and I want to highlight some things like that we had very passionate discussions on. Definitely like one. Alex, this is like throwing me off. We keep it.
You want to stay here?
Yeah. I was losing my train of thought.
Is it too much pressure? You know,
it is. Yeah. But I just want the team to be able to join me in this discussion. But with the like some of the things that we had very few discussions about was like 1 lane versus 2 lane. You have no idea how long that took to be like, okay, what if we put a toggle that allows you to pick one or the other? Like it sounds so simple, but that was several weeks of like trial and error and iterating. And once we got to the 2 lanes, we were like, what do we do with the 2 lanes? As in like, how do you get the player to look from 1 lane to the other? And we had so many iterations of this. Someone else, if you want to talk about it, but it was like we had arrows, we had like little like note, like in the sheet music, there's like notes that tie together, like the ties. We had that from one side to the other.
You're gonna get made fun of by people for that.
Why?
No, keep going.
Somebody else jump in. Like, let's hear from a developer perspective here.
Or maybe Emily, maybe you did a lot too.
Actually, I don't know if Emily was around.
I wasn't there for those discussions. I came in later.
No, you missed the fun times.
I know, I missed the lanes.
I mean, even before the lanes, like the lanes was already slightly easier discussion because it's at least a little bit more streamlined. But even before the lanes, we had to decide even like the orientation. Like, does it go from left to right? Does it go from like front to back? Does it go like, is it like this or like this? Like we had to experiment to see what felt better.
Right, because the notes do kind of like the lowest notes on the trombone with your arm extended the most are on the bottom of the music staff, and the highest notes are at the top of the music staff. And like for a lot of people, their brain associates like the height of where it is on the staff with the positioning of their hand. And I think I even do it too subtly, like a little bit like I'm like kind of coming up as the notes are higher on the staff and down. And like I can only imagine how much like has to go into the approach when you understand that people are associating what they're seeing with where their hands are going, and you want it to be intuitive, but you also want it to feel like a trombone at the same time. And it's got to be like such a fine line to walk.
Yeah, a lot of the things that might feel intuitive. I mean, there's also the problem that trombones are not intuitive. I feel like people,
Right.
nobody knows how to hold a trombone. Nobody knows how to blow it. Have you ever played a trombone? I don't think most people know how you blow a trombone. Not that that affects the
Teach
actual
us.
game.
Teach us.
Show
Trombone
us,
class
please.
time.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have it here with me right now. I got a trombone for developing this game, just for realism. Like that's how realistic this game is. It's an 100% accurate trombone simulator.
Trombone
That's what you're
sim.
getting. But yeah, like besides the orientation stuff, then picking like these like 2 lanes things. We initially actually, like as you were saying, like we wanted to make people move a little bit more, and we were maybe a bit too forceful there. We were like trying to actually force them to look at a specific lane to be able to play. But right now, you don't actually need to look at it. You have to look at it because you need to see the notes, right? But the game doesn't force you to like aim anything at it. And we were experimenting. That was how we were going like for a very long time. And we were just trying to find ways how to tell the player that they need to either like aim the trombone or look with their head, or like how do you transmit this information to the player without like extensive tutorials and like overwhelming information. And then we just realized that you don't need to do anything. You just the
Dude, what you're
minimal
touching
version
on,
like went way better.
what you're touching on is like the deeper thing about this game that separates it from others that Wes, I think, has really been trying to drive home for a while. Like every time I talk to Wes about this game, like this is the point he's trying to make. And it's that like technically you don't actually have to look at the notes. If you understand the mechanics of the game well enough and what the song is, you could legitimately play it with your eyes closed. Like, cause like it is like you're actually playing this thing, you know? So you can move the slider at any point. You can play notes in between the notes if you want without hurting your score, which I think is really, really cool. Which kind of allows for a little bit of expression. I mean, granted, you don't have a ton of time for that. Like, let's be real. Like, you got to play your next note. But the point is, like, you know, I play a lot of this game and I'm better than everybody right now. I'm sure today, as launch day comes out,
This is the last day.
It is the last day. I'm riding this thing into the sunset. Okay.
This is like when somebody brags, they're like, I'm better than anyone else. And like with Alex, you're like, no, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it is. It is.
No.
Today it is. It won't be for long, but today it is. And I have noticed that when it comes to some of the more difficult songs, I'm really not looking at the notes as much. Like I'm tapping into where I know it is, and I'm going purely off a vibe. Like during the Mexican song, like it's really fast, and you're going up and down the whole time, and I'm just feeling it. You know, like I'm just like, I know where it is. I'm just like, there's the pocket, and I get into the pocket and I vibe on it. And like, you can't really do that with any other rhythm game because it's so rigid in its timing and the positioning of where you need to be. Like that expression isn't there. So you could legitimately close your eyes and jam on this. And I don't think you could close your eyes and pass a Beat Saber song or a Smash Drum song or whatever. Like you have to see those visual cues.
Or the original Trombone Champ. Like again, a very different experience, a very different game. And we've probably spent 10 minutes here talking about all of this stuff that is like miles from the original, which makes me wonder what is left. What's the same? Is anything at all the same about this versus the original Trombone Champ?
There's a ton of stuff. I was going to touch on this. It's less on the rhythm game part of it, but we're talking about of all the different parts of Trombone Champ, the flat version and Unflattened, there's a huge amount of lore and like underbelly weird things that are in the flat game that we were able to do really fun things with in the Unflattened version. Like the character George, who in the flat game kind of appears when you summon him with a candle. He got his whole own storefront where you can trade cards with him and get him trombones. But all of that is inspired from and comes from the Unflattened game and is building on, or the flat version of the game in the Unflattened game, and comes from that same lore, that same world. And it's very much building on all of the stuff that Jan and Jackie, the original creators, kind of laid the groundwork for, in the story, the world, the quirkiness, the breaking of the third wall to like address the player and the fact that they're playing the game a lot. All of that we brought into the Unflattened version of the game. We just got to make it feel more immersive, and you actually have a trombone collection with a stand that you can pick up and spray paint like we talked about and things like that. So it's all very much grounded in the original game and the world of the original game. We even were able to bring in kind of a light touch version of a development on the lore of the original game, which if you get super into the original game, you kind of start to uncover. We have a little bit of a progression on that as well that expands on this idea of like the trombone champ being able to control the fate and destiny of music by playing the trombone. So there's a ton of things that we were able to pull on.
And what I love about the Trombone Champ lore and how it's also been executed in Unflattened is just how subtle it is. Like, it's all very subtle, and like you have to play a lot of it to absorb it, you know. And then I almost feel like this is the kind of thing that like communities like really love, you know, because they like start to like guess about the characters and like almost start to dream up their own stories about how these things came to be, or you know, who they are in relative to the rest of the universe of the game. It's all very tongue in cheek, but there is something that's like, there's like something that you can chew on there, you know, like you can actually sink your teeth into it a little bit.
There,
it's great.
Yeah, there are 2 like hour-and-a-half long videos just on breaking down the lore of Trombone Champ and going super. They both have like 1 million views or like 10 million views or something crazy. It's just it goes
like,
deep. And
I've heard like I don't know, like a rumor or something that it's like this, like, you know, Trombone Champ is based on Dark Souls or something like that, you know, like how is that even remotely possible?
That's the way you have to play.
Yeah, it's something that's the same. Yeah, the baboon is in there quite a bit, but you have to find him.
You have to find him. You have to dig. You have to dig around for this lore, which I really love. And by the way, I wanted to mention this earlier. The naming convention of Unflattened is brilliant. Like Trombone Champ Unflattened, like we flat to VR, we've unflattened it. Like I thought that was so good, like almost so good that it's like, oh, we can't, like, how do we continue that? Like, how can you possibly top that naming? Like, is it going to be like flat out, unflattened, you know, like unflattened out?
Every port is going to have the same name now.
RoboQuest Unflattened.
You come up with that? I think you did.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. It was part of a list of names that I had Unflattened and I had Inflated, which was sounded a little bit.
Oh, Inflated. That's kind of fun. Also, another
has fun names are all the custom trombones. All of them have really fun names, and they're just like.
Thank you, because that was kind of something I wanted to ask about, not just about the trombones, but the collectibles in general. There's a lot of stuff to collect in this game, like tons and tons and tons of stuff to keep people coming back and keep people striving to, you know, achieve more and finish more of the challenges. So let's start with the trombones. I mean, there is a vast selection available today. I think there's over 20 of them right now. And, you know, with what's in the works, like dozens and dozens more coming down the line. Now, all of these trombones, are they just cosmetic differences in the trombones, or do they sound different? Talk a little bit about the collectible trombones, please.
I love her trombones. Emily, do you have your list of names? Maybe even just start with some of your favorites. Yeah.
I feel like that should be Rai if we're going to talk about the names. He's the one who sent us down the line of puns.
No, that's embarrassing. I don't want to say them out loud.
Ray power.
I feel like the developers would put the custom trombones in, and then, you know, we'd go in to test it, and all of a sudden they'd have all these crazy names. I never know who these came from, and they were just like, oh, they were just placeholders. Like, these are great. Let's just keep them.
I do love it.
For the document. I always like the fish one the most, probably.
C-scale,
yeah.
So
which, you know, if you were lucky enough and smart enough to pre-order this game, you will have in your collection. If you didn't, then I'm sorry to tell you, C-scale is not going to be available to you. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Inspiration for
shameless plug.
Custom trombones is like, you know, as you know, do a lot of marketing in the VR space, and we know like your game has to look really good on video. And the one thing that you will always see in this game when you're recording is the trombone that you're holding. And so we were like, how do we just make this so ridiculous and make it so fun for other people who are watching like recordings of this to really enjoy it? And that's really where that came from. I mean, Elliott just is like a treasure trove of the most ridiculous ideas, and like they're great and they're awful all at the same time. It's like I love that idea, but with what time? We have no time, no resources, but it's also like, yeah, that's a really good idea. I think at least that one is in the trailer. So
You said you want people to enjoy it. I'm going to put enjoy in quotations because a lot of these trombones are really fun and silly, and many of them have custom sounds. To answer Wes's question, like there's a plunger one that like literally sounds like a plunger, like sounds awful. Like I can't do it, y'all. Like I am turning those custom sounds off on all of those things. Like they sound so terribly, hilariously bad that I can't make it through a whole song.
Watch your view count on any video you share go way up if you actually play with those sounds.
well, you know how the sound for the plunger was actually made, right?
I saw a photo.
It was made with an actual plunger in a sink and like a free recording software. It was done in Holy Wow's bathroom.
Okay. That sounds like an interesting story. What
we didn't really
talking about? We were talking about the C-scale trombone just a moment ago, which is an exclusive for the, or at least currently an exclusive pre-order bonus for the Meta platform. What does that one sound like? I've always been curious because I played the game. I haven't unlocked a ton of these different unlockable trombones. I've always wondered what that fish one sounds like. What does that sound like?
I think Elliott can do an impersonation of that.
Yeah, please, Elliott.
It's like a very deep bass sound with water.
Yeah, like another water.
Like a gurgle type sound or a bubbly sound.
So that fish trombone was and with the animation was based off of the singing bass that you see on the wall.
The big mouth Billy.
Billy bass.
Yeah, and you know, because Elliott's not mentioning, I'll mention it. Like the aurora that you see in the game when you're playing really well, for example, was inspired by the Pixar movie Soul, or Disney movie Soul, where like when he's playing the piano and he gets into the zone, he like goes into this other world where like all of a sudden there's this aurora. And I remember when Elliott had first brought it up. I mean, when we were brainstorming ideas for like effects, Elliott came up with a list of like 80 plus. And I remember I brought it to the VFX team and I was just like, hey, these are the VFX that we want to do. And they almost like had a heart attack. And then I told Elliott, I was like, Elliott, why did you give me a list of 80? They're freaking out. He was like, you sent it to the VFX. He was like, that was a brainstorming document. Oh no! But I remember with the Aurora, we really wanted the Aurora because we were like, oh, it's gonna be so cool. And we couldn't like, we were just like, how is this even possible to do? It just seems like how is that? Like, I don't know. I couldn't figure out how they were gonna do it. It just seems so hard to do in VR. But the execution of what the team did with getting the VFX of the Aurora is really like, it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Are there any? Is there anything in the game that like is a like bug turned feature? You know, like I feel like that happens often where like there's a bug or something weird that happens. Everyone like looks at it and they're like, well, actually, that's kind of hilarious, or I kind of love that. Let's do something with that. You know, or any like weird, funny things that happen during development.
I know at least one, but maybe David could.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one that comes to mind that just kind of like solved the problem was we had the whole issue where the trombone like obstructs your vision and it's like right up in your face, so you can't see the left side very well. And while I was messing with the way the notes get rendered, I accidentally had the outline show up over the trombone model, and that ended up working perfectly to handle that problem, and it's like that now.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even noticed.
That's the magic. That means it's working.
I literally don't think I've ever noticed that.
You probably would have noticed if it wasn't doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could play the whole thing with just the trombone completely covering your face, and just play with the outlines if you want.
You can try with the the cat trombone, because that cat would
Oh, yeah.
look at you
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
right in front of your face, like mocking you, and yeah, it just covers you like a whole view, and you can still kind of play it.
Yeah, we haven't
y'all-
even covered those types of the trombones. Like,
we
got
could
some
talk
really
for
fun
hours
ones.
about this. Like
Yeah.
I could literally talk for hours about this, but we can't. We gotta wrap this thing up at some point here. And I think that time is basically now. Unfortunately, again, like I'm having so much fun.
Wait, there's one
talking
more
about
thing
this.
I have to mention though. This
I've
That's-
is really
got a
important.
couple questions.
Man,
myself.
you guys,
So
yes,
important. Okay.
please.
Please
So
go ahead,
for,
Jasmine.
for the menu system, that was a whole discussion on its own, because we were like, well, if you're on stage, when you're in the menu, you should be in the backstage, right? Or you should be, but we were like, oh, we're gonna have to make a whole backstage. Oh, but it would be so cool because then you can decorate the backstage. And we were like, oh, but with what money are we gonna build this whole entire new backstage environment? And we were like, oh, think. We were like, okay, what if you come from the bottom of the stage and then you get risen up? I think that was one of Elliott's ideas. And at first we were going to try that, but we were like, we don't have any time. This is too complicated. Simplify. And then it was just like, okay, let's just close the curtains then. And we're like, oh yeah, that works.
It works really well. I love the curtain open close vibe. That's a whole thing. Yeah, it's
And
One
even
thing-
like the
yeah.
trombone cart was like the whole thing with the trombone cart, or I guess the store cart coming in. We were like, how do we get the store to come in and like look good? And I can't remember, one of these brilliant people, or maybe even someone else on the team was like, oh, we should have it like come through the curtain like it's driving the car through the curtain. It was like, brilliant. And that's how that came about too.
This
it.
might be the first VR game that has no loading screens. So like so the whole curtain closing all happens behind the scenes, doesn't do any type of blacking out, and it happens pretty quick. But like, yeah,
that is actually an interesting point, because like you go straight from choosing the song, you hit play and the curtains close and they open up and bam, you're ready to go. Yeah, or I guess they're
That's fun.
already closed. Yeah, that's really good. All right, well, let's start to wrap this up. But Jasmine, one more thing that's important about Trombone Champ Unflattened or Flat2VR Studios that we haven't mentioned.
Skip me. Go to someone else.
Okay, Elliott,
Double and
Get-
put it someone else.
give me something that you didn't mention that we wanted to before we wrap this up. Take your time.
Just I don't know. I started to have all these fun trombones that are completely different. Like a cat that you actually pull and meow, and its paw is kind of going with it. Just some
No
like
spoilers.
What's that?
No spoilers.
Oh, the floppy pool physics, which you can like fling around and drop things with, and then just at least one more. Let's see. At least the chicken. You're taking
I
a rubber
said no
chicken. and it's
spoilers.
like- no, but
Never
there's
listens to
so
me.
much in this game. These are just I don't know.
There's a couple of XR Update exclusives for you guys. Okay, needless to say, there's a
Word.
lot happening behind the scenes
Word.
on this. Is there anything that
on that note, I do have one more question. Of course, in case you all haven't realized by now, this is Trombone Champ Unflattened, finally available on all major VR platforms now. MetaQuest, PSVR 2, Steam VR. Go get it. We've talked a lot about what's in the game and what's available right now. We haven't talked much about what's coming. Are we going to have more stuff coming down the road? Are you going to add more tracks, more trombones? I guess we did mention that there will be more trombones. Talk a little bit about where we go from here forward now that we've launched the game.
Emily.
What are we allowed to say? There's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of stuff coming.
Be vague. Don't be exact. Don't
There's
tell
a
them.
ton of trombones coming. There's specific special things we're planning for the holidays, new environments, trombones, songs. Yeah, there's a ton more that we have planned, and we're definitely also hoping to get a lot of feedback from the community and folks who are playing it and things that they want to see, things they're excited about. So we have a lot planned on our side, but we're also excited to see, what the folks who are playing get excited about, that we can hopefully get out to them as well.
Beautiful. Also, shout out
$14.99.
to yes, $14.99, same price as the base game. Shout out to all the modders in the modding community, because guess what? Custom songs work out of the box with this thing, which is amazing. All you have to do is plug your Quest in, drag the custom song into a folder, and launch it up on your Quest, and it works. It's fantastic, actually. I was playing like Toxicity and like a bunch of Nintendo music and loving every second of it.
Yeah. We can link the video to how to do that in the description, probably.
That's a great idea. We'll do that. Link in the description below to how to do custom songs. Spoiler, it's easy. Guys, I want to go on and on, but we can't. I am so thrilled that this game is out into the wild now. Congratulations to everyone. You have done an amazing job, and I'm fairly confident that this is going to be a well-received title by the VR community. And I know I feel very lucky and privileged to have had such an intimate look behind the scenes on this thing. So thank you all so much for everything that you have been doing for VR, for games in general, for all of us. And please keep up the good work. We're here in your corner in more ways than one. And can't wait to talk to you again soon to find out what's next from Flat to VR.
Yeah, this is the first of many. And we are very excited to keep bringing all of the best games to VR. That is our goal, and we hope that you love this and that you see the quality of work and effort and energy that we want to put into all of our games moving forward, and that we're putting it on all platforms so that it's available for everybody in the VR space.
It's very important. Shout out PlayStation VR2 community. We know you guys are passionate. We love you all. All right, everybody. Thank you, Rai. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Jasmine, Elliott, and David, again, for all of your work and for joining us on XR Update. Don't be strangers, and we'll see you very soon. We have something new to share. All right, everybody. Let's all say goodbye to the Flat to VR crew. Bye, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Back to work. No, just kidding.
All right. Bye, guys.
See you.
Wes, what an amazing chat with such an inspiring team. I am so excited that this is finally out in the world for everyone to enjoy. I guess all there's left to do at this point is sit back and watch everybody beat my scores, right?
Yeah, that or one of the things that I really like, and we touched on this during the interview with the team there, is the fact that you don't have to play the songs that are in the game. You can play any song in this. You can go into the improv mode and just play whatever's at the top of your head. Or if you're playing on PC or Quest, you can literally import songs into it. And there's like a whole community out there that's based on mapping out these custom tracks. So that's kind of when I think about this game. Like if I were to ever get as good at this game as you are at it, I think that if I were going to make content from it, it would literally be me playing like the most awesome song I could think of, again, in improv mode or in custom track mode.
Yeah, you know what I think I'll do is, because I was watching some PSVR live streams this week, is maybe I'll pop into PlayStation VR now and let PlayStation VR know that Alex VR is here and that he's not to be messed around with. Get myself on those leaderboards too, so that way as many communities as possible know who the Trombone Champ is. But listen, everybody, that's gonna do it for today's episode. A bit of a longer one than we normally do, but that's totally okay with us because it's our favorite game. We had to do this. We had to get into the nitty gritty. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the XR Update podcast. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet. Check us out on X, where all of our updates from XR Update will go live. Also go to xrupdate.com, where we post amazing news stories, sometimes like journalistic, sometimes editorial, but we're covering all the different corners of the XR space. Wes, anything else, man?
No, man, just go buy it. Available now on all major VR platforms. Exciting day for our studio and for all the people that I care about most in the world. So.
Amen to that. Listen, y'all, if you care about virtual reality, go support Flat to VR Studios and buy Trombone Champ Unflattened. That's going to do it again for today's episode. Alex VR, Wes Dillon. Thanks again. We will see you in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode of XR Update. Have a good one, everybody.